Here's to whiskey kisses with peachy taste of sin.
Happy New Year, everyone. Today is Friday, the 8th of January. It is 6:30 p.m. and that can only mean one thing. It's whiskey time. Welcome back, whiskey folk. We have another exciting episode of Drinking Out Loud for you here today, where we will be exploring the January OutTurn from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society. Exciting as always, and I'm bringing back something from when I first started doing these videos. It's kind of been forgotten a little bit. Well, it's not been forgotten. I've just been doing it off screen, but it is very important to stretch in exercise, and you know, I take whiskey seriously. It's an exercise, so we're going to stretch today with our opening dram. We've brought one back from the vaults. We have brought back Ice Cream in the Orchard, one that was around a couple of years ago, and we've managed to bring back one final case to share with you, our whiskey lovers. And yeah, I think the SMWS membership has grown substantially since this was last released, so there's going to be an awful lot of people who didn't have a chance to purchase this the first time around, or try this the first time around. And yeah, thankfully some of you will get the chance to this time. So I'm going to open this up and tell you what's going on. My name's Adam Bradshaw. It's a pleasure to meet you if I haven't already. And you are watching Drinking Out Loud, a series of whiskey tasting videos here on YouTube that are part of the Strath's Whiskey Program, part of the Dram Association here in Victoria, British Columbia. And we're doing these videos predominantly, really primarily because of the pandemic, which you might have heard of. I know it's 2021 now, and that is so last year, but the pandemic is still happening, and we're not able to do in-person tastings right now, and that means that we're getting together digitally. So please do say hi in the live chat that is happening right now if you happen to be watching at the premiere. If you're not watching at the premiere, you're watching maybe a little later on in the evening, or perhaps at a later date altogether, please drop us a comment down below. It'd be great to hear from you. Yeah, so basically, you guys get to watch me drink some whiskey and tell you a little bit about it. So, our opening dram, whiskey number 1 here today, Ice Cream in an Orchard. And this is going to be great because we can get to use this as an example of what the SMWS is for anyone who isn't familiar with them. As you might have seen in the little video clip I played, Scotch Malt Whisky Society is a global membership. They bottle whiskies from actually all around the world now, not just Scotland. And not just whiskies actually, other spirits too now. But primarily focusing on Scotch single malt whiskey. And they bottle it generally as a single cask. They have started blending now as well, but they make it very clear when it's a blend. It looks very different. This is how they look. Actually, this is how they used to look. You'll see one of the current liveries shortly. This is actually the old label. But yeah, this is what's generally what they look like with the green bottle and the little logo at the top, which has also changed. Tell you what, I'll show you the new one when we get there. Do I have one over here? No, I've still got the old one over there as well. I should have brought a prop. Anyway, but the label tells you everything you need to know about this whiskey. Well, everything, mostly everything you need to know about the whiskey. There's one thing it doesn't say, and it's quite obvious that it doesn't say it, actually. So it gives it a nickname. This one is Ice Cream in the Orchard, as I've said before. It gives you a little bit of an idea of the kind of flavors, but it also gives you a small write-up on the label as well. Sweetly fragrant like orchard blossom, violets and roses, then spiced apples and plums with a waxy finish of mint ice cream and vanilla. And that is just a sort of a snippet of the full tasting notes, which you can get either in the OutTurn booklet when it releases, or online as well. That's Scotch Malt Whisky Society's official Canadian website, smws.ca, where you can get all the up-to-date information. It'll tell you exactly how many were released. So in the top right corner here, it says 1 out of 189. And that is literally how many were ever made. This is a single cask bottling. And there's only so much whiskey you can fit in a cask, right? So they managed to get 189 bottles out of this one. This is one of them. They give it a code, 9.126. What that means is this is the 9th distillery that the SMWS has purchased a cask from. They differentiate different distilleries. And this is now the 126th edition. The 126th cask that they've purchased from that distillery. It'll tell you the type of whiskey. It's a single malt Scotch whiskey, single cask. It'll tell you the distillation date, the exact date this whiskey was made, the 15th of September 2005. The cask, refill barrel ex-bourbon, and the region, in this case, Speyside. And actually, on the distillation date, I mean, this is something that someone brought up quite recently. Yeah, theoretically, yes, you're right. It could still be a single cask whiskey and have more than one distillation date, because sometimes when a distillery distills a vast amount of alcohol, a new make spirit, and they want to put it in barrels, they have a little bit left over, and it'll get added to the next day's distillate, or then even the next week's distillate. So sometimes you will have spirit distilled on more than one day put into a cask, but it seems very rare, and let's face it, we're talking a matter of hours here, probably doesn't matter. But yes, if you're really pedantic about it, not necessarily a single distillate, but very, 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 very likely to be. It would be weird not to be. Anyway, 56.7% ABV and 11 years age. Not 11 years old, because as it says here, it was distilled on the 15th of September 2005. It's now 2021. So that was, 15 and a half years ago. But whiskey only ages in the cask, so the number on here is how long it's spent in the cask, in the oak cask. In this case, the refill ex-bourbon barrel. Yeah, and that's pretty much everything you need to know, apart from one extra thing that you do need to know as well. On the back here, it's got some very important information about the Scotch Malt Whisky Society, yeah, it will let you know that it was imported by Noseworthy Imports in Calgary, Alberta, who are the people in charge of bringing SMWS whiskies here to us in Canada. So we are a worldwide community, but we have chapters, and we are part of the Canadian chapter. And a huge shout out and thanks to Rob and Kelly, who are currently in Edinburgh, Scotland, with their new distillery project over at Holyrood. So I hope you guys are safe over there. I hope you're having some fun, and I hope you're getting some work done over at Holyrood as well. And yeah, thanks once again for supplying us with some fantastic whiskey here in Canada. Yeah. So what's the thing that's missing? Yeah. What's the really important thing that's missing on this bottle? And no, I'm not talking about the price. We'll get to that though. The thing that's missing on this bottle is the distillery. They don't say. The SMWS won't say what distillery this is from, but you can look it up on the code. You remember how I said earlier on there's code 9.126? This is the 9th distillery they've visited, and they have dropped hints all over the place, and sometimes, in some occasions, official SMWS ambassadors will outright just say where it's from. And this one, we do know where it's from. This is from Glen Grant. And yeah, Glen Grant, really cool Speyside distillery. It's yeah, it's a favorite of many, especially in the awards scene recently. The Glen Grant 18 has been very, very popular. And yeah, Actually, I believe the only distillery in Scotland to ever be named after a person, Major Grant, who, if I remember correctly, was the first person in Speyside to own an automobile, which is kind of neat. Yeah, I mean, in North America, naming distilleries after people is very, very common. Of course, you know, we've got Elijah Craig, Jim Beam, even Macaloney's Caledonian, after Graham McAloney here in Victoria. But in Scotland, very, very, very rare. And yeah, blends, however, are often named after people, of course. Johnny Walker. Yeah. Bells, after, I believe, Arthur Bell, was it? I'm not sure. Teachers, after Adam Teacher. There's, yeah, whole lot of blends named after people, but very, very few distilleries. In fact, as far as I'm aware, like I said, only one, Glen Grant. Oh, she smells good. So this was, like I said, available a long time ago. It is now available. We've got 5 more bottles for sale. It's available actually right now on our website, strathliquor.com. And if you go to strathliquor.com/SMWS and keep refreshing that page, you'll get to see all of our new releases as they come up today. So I recommend loading that in a separate browser. And yeah, if you're interested in getting any of these whiskies as they are released, then that is that is an option available to you. It's smelling a little sharp, actually. Yeah, sharp, floral, a little bit. It smells gourmet in a weird sense. I don't know how to. It's not like a particular meal that it's bringing to mind, but it smells like like a bunch of flavors that a chef has combined that you wouldn't normally put together. Let's see if I can. See if I can figure out what kind of flavors I'm actually getting. Pear. I'm getting pear. A little bit of nuts. But I'm also getting like the violet. What are they called? The lavender macrons. The violet coloured macrons. With a little sort of vegetal kick in there as well. Maybe it's a pear macron salad with arugula. It smells good though. It's, Yep, 56.7% cask strength, natural strength. And this has not been messed with. There's not been watered down to 40% or 46 or 48. This is as it comes, fresh out the cask, non-chill filtered, non-coloured, and that packs a big punch of flavour. Getting a lot more vanilla on the palate than I already got on the nose. Still retains that floralness, but it's a deeper floralness. Yeah, very, very pleasant. Now, I don't actually remember offhand how much this one costs, but if you are interested in picking one up, it's apparently, according to my notes, $149.48, which is pretty damn good. So yeah, if you want to pick one of those up, it is available right this second at strathliquor.com/SMWS. Yeah, I feel ready. I'm stretched, I'm limber. I am ready for my first new whiskey of 2021. And don't worry, I have had plenty of whiskey already this year, but I haven't tried anything new yet. So let's see where we go. So the first new release of 2021 for the SMWS is called Elegant and Inviting, and I have the notes right here in this book. This is the full write-up from the panel of experts in Scotland. This copper-coloured Baco Grape Bass Armagnac is not a whiskey. The first whiskey of 2021 is not a whiskey. It's an Armagnac. All right, cool. I guess I still get to look forward to it, and it will happen eventually. This copper-coloured Baco Grape Bass Armagnac offers aromas of apple pie with caramelised sugar, gentle spices, cinnamon and clove, dried flowers, and a winey freshness. Fruits develop with dark cherries and then caramelizing melted butter. Hints of black tea together with tobacco, resin, and a slight woody character contribute to a drying nose. The refined taste has gentle tannins and woody spices balanced with vanilla custard, prunes and apples. This turns slightly nutty with wax furniture polish. It is sweet and warming with a short and drying finish that leaves you wanting more. This small estate and vineyard was purchased by the current owners in 1990. Only 8 hectares are used for making Armagnac. Cool. It's not often you get like little facts about the distillery in the official notes. I don't think I've actually ever come across that. That's really nice. Means I've got less work to do. I don't have to find out facts for you anymore. I can just read the official ones. Let's take a look at the bottle, shall we? So here we go. And that's the logo that you're looking out for these days. I'll bring the old one back. So that's kind of the evolution we'll see there. It's still got the house in the middle. Whoop, I'm so bad at this. Mirrored. No, there we go. I've got a monitor right here, but it's mirrored. So every time I try and do something, I do it exactly the wrong way. I just can't fix my brain to think otherwise. But yeah, you can see here the logo has changed quite substantially. It's got the nice big SMWS sort of letter mark going through that now, instead of the full wording. So A 4.1. This is a rarity. A lot of people try and collect all of the 0.1s. I say a lot of people, not a lot of people, because it would be really hard. It's a really hard thing to collect the 0.1s in the SMWS. But there are some people who are trying to get every single 0.1 they can get, and this is one of them. This is the first ever release from the 4th Armagnac house that they've purchased a cask from. This is this is a Gascon Black Oak cask, a pretty decent sized cask apparently, because they managed to get 546 bottles out of it. It is of course from the Basse Armagnac region and the Baco grape, and this is a vintage. This is the 2002 vintage. This is got some age on it now. However, I know for a fact that this isn't going to be 19 years old. I mean, for a start, there's only been a couple of days of 2021, so it seems very unlikely in general. But also, although it's the 4.1, this is not the first Armagnac from A4 that we've had. Actually, about a year ago. In fact, I believe it was last January, because it was part of the Ravi Burns celebrations that we had. We had an Armagnac called A Cup of Kindness from this exact same distillery. And that was a 4.5. So we've actually gone backwards slightly, which is kind of neat. Don't know how that happened. I'm not going to question it. I'm just happy about it. It's always fun to have a number 1. So this is 49.1% ABV. I believe Armagnacs generally do come out to be a little bit lower than whiskies of a similar age. Let's crack her open. Let's see what she's about, shall we? Ooh, tight. Apparently I didn't warm up enough. Hang on. Oh man, that was tight. What's going on there? All right, new glass. That is a colour. Look at that. It's gorgeous. Whew. I have actually really been enjoying discovering Armagnacs and cognacs and rums and things through the SMWS, but they have spoiled me somewhat, because I've been trying other cognacs, like non-single cask strength cognacs and Armagnacs. They're not as good. Like, yeah, I've yet to have one that has impressed me as much as any of the SMWS stuff, which is, yeah. Maybe it's just a whiskey drinker's perspective, though. It's hard to say. Although it doesn't smell anything like whiskey. It smells very, very Armagnac-y. This is not one of the SMWS spirits where, I could be tricked into thinking this might actually be a whiskey. Yeah, I get the cinnamon, I get the cloves, I get the dark cherries. Smells blueberries. I don't think they mentioned blueberries in here. It smells like blueberry tea. Like the the cocktail shot blueberry tea, not actual tea made of blueberries, which I don't think I've ever had, but sounds quite good. A little bit of a Ribena thing going on the nose as well. Pleasant. It is slightly furniture polishy. And that's, I guess in this case it's not a whiskey asterisk, but rather an Armagnac asterisk. That's furniture polish, but in a good way. Oh, it's soft and nutty on the back. I like that. I like that. Vanilla custard. I'm not sure about actual custard. It's more like the cream filling in a custard cream cookie. Or, again, I've used this tasting note personally several times. Custard creams aren't really big here. Think the blonde Oreos if you're a North American audience. That's pretty good. I'm going to try a little bit of water in this. Again, I'm sorry if there's any hardcore Armagnac people who are watching this at home going, you don't add water to an Armagnac. I don't know. I don't know if you add water to an Armagnac. I'm generally a whiskey drinker, and I enjoy experimenting with adding water to whiskey, so I'm going to try it with an Armagnac, because that's what I have in my hand. And let's face it, it's an Armagnac that's being presented in a similar fashion to whiskies. You like I said, generally don't get Armagnacs at cask strength or a single cask. Oh, it's more vibrant. Fresher, much fresher. Grassy, green apples, barley sugars, which is weird because there's no barley, obviously. Yeah. So I was reading a post earlier on, I think it was Twitter, from Shelter Point, the local distillery up here, who were sharing an article about how it is now official in the United States, at least, that whiskey is considered completely gluten-free, which of course it is. Like, gluten can't go through the distillate process. But that doesn't mean that some people who are celiac or completely gluten-free aren't still wary of whiskey, especially as, nocebo effects, which is like the opposite of a placebo, are very, very real. If you think it's going to make you sick, it can make you sick. I mean, a lot of that is just a stress reaction, but still, it's very, very real. Sick is sick. But this would be a perfect alternative for people who, for whatever reason, feel they can't drink whiskey. This is, this is beautiful. This is a very similar experience with a very different approach. It's very good. As sad as I would be if I was told I could never drink whiskey again, I would take some solace in the fact that I can still have other brand spirits, I have to admit. Whiskey isn't the be-all and end-all, it's just the best. Let's face it, whiskey is the best. But yeah, this is pretty good too. Yeah, very pleasant. So, what is the A4 distillery? Where is this from? It's from a distillery which I'm probably about to butcher the name of, called Domaine d'Esprance, or something along those lines. A distillery which became particularly popular in 2018 after their XO, and for those not familiar with the XO terminology, these days XO means the minimum age of 10 years. So basically their 10-year-old official bottling in whiskey terms won the #1 spirit in the world according to Wine Enthusiast magazine, which have they're very highly regarded in their competitions. It won #1 in the world, best spirit in the world, at 98 points out of 100. So that's cool. This is not 10 years old. This is, I would say, at least 16, 17 years old. We don't actually have a bottling date, so we don't know the age. We only know the vintage. That's kind of how Armagnacs go. But yeah, this is very, very good. I wonder if this was entered into that same competition, if this would have scored more than 98, perhaps. Who can say? It wasn't, and we'll never know. But a very highly regarded maker of Armagnacs, and it's available right now. It's available right this second for the price of $181.65. So yeah, head down to strathliquor.com/SMWS. You'll see it right there in the new releases section at the top, unless it's sold out already. But for those of you who are watching, you know, at the premiere, it shouldn't have sold out already because it should have just gone on sale like 35 seconds ago. So yeah, it should be there right now. Hit refresh if you can't see it, and yeah, pick up a wonderful bottle of Domaine d'Espérance at a very good price. And actually, at that price, I should mention it is open to non-members as well. So if there's any left after all the members watching this video have had their shot, yeah, it's above the $180 mark, which means if you've never been a member before, you can buy this bottle and become an SMWS member for your first year. Your first year is included in the purchase of this bottle. It's kind of almost a try before you buy kind of thing. So yeah, you can have a trial year basically of the Scotch Malt Whisky Society to see if it's for you, see if our community and our spirits are up your alley. Beautiful, a lovely Armagnac. So, I am very excited to try my actual first new whiskey of the year, and it's actually a very, very special whiskey. A very special whiskey indeed, because, as I mentioned, Rob and Kelly are the operators of the Canadian branch of the SMWS, and they have a little message for us. They've got a brand new thing that they're starting in 2021, starting with this bottle, and I'm going to read it directly out of the book here. There's no doubt that 2020 took the wind out of everyone's sails, and it's with a cautious sigh of relief that we head into 2021. Like many small businesses, we took a hit last year as in-person tastings were sidelined and people tightened their wallets, rightfully so, amid months of uncertainty. That said, though, we're still here and looking forward to much better times. But lots of others could use a hand. With that in mind, this month we're introducing our Giving Spirit program. Each quarter, SMWS Canada will donate to charity 100% of their profit from the sales of a designated bottle. Since our members are spread far and wide across Canada, we'll endeavour to identify national charities, but from time to time we'll look at smaller charities with a local focus in different areas around the country. We're happy to take suggestions from our members. The programme kicks off this quarter with the proceeds from cask number 8564, Baked Bananas and Burnt Bacon, going to Big Brothers and Big Sisters of Canada, an organisation close to our hearts. A new bottling and a new charity will be selected in April, and then again in July, and again in October, so keep an eye on our outturns to see which delicious bottle is selected as the Giving Spirit bottle. And know that you're contributing to a great cause when you buy one. Now that's something to raise a glass to. I could not agree more, and I look forward to filling this with this month's Giving Spirit whiskey, raising a glass to exactly that. And on the note of charitable giving and donations, keep an eye on what we're doing here at the Strath over the next couple of months. We hope to have some very interesting things to support local charities. Obviously, the Victoria Whisky Festival isn't happening this year, so we're going to do our best to try and make up some lost ground, as the Victoria Whisky Festival, as you might know, is a charitable organisation. 100% of their proceeds go to charity. So as that's not happening, we're going to try and fill in some of the gaps there, and yeah, still have some fun and enjoy some incredible whiskies through it. So this, as we said, is called Baked Bananas and Burnt Bacon. Very different to burnt bananas and baked bacon. Yeah. And here are the official tasting notes. A massively fruity nose introduced fresh strawberries, pear drops, and wooden crates packed with apples and lemons. Earthy notes of rain on warm flower beds and tree bark emerged through juicy fruit before deepening to ground coffee beans and stout beer. A spicy mouthfeel unveils cinnamon, ginger and turmeric with stewed apples and burnt fruitcake that evolved into singed sugar and the charcoal from a grill tray. Bacon notes developed with water and joined ripe bananas with creamy elements that touched on butter and fruit yogurt. The velvety feel turned to cream soda and beeswax on the tongue as burnt toffee-covered apples, nutmeg and sultanas on a charred finish. Sounds delightful. Let's take a look at the bottle. We have the new livery. So we saw the new logo. We now have the actual what whiskies look like now, which I have to admit I much prefer. I don't know why I whispered that. I much prefer. That's not a bad thing. It's okay to embrace new. Yeah, 8564, one of 224 bottles on this OutTurn. It was distilled on the 21st of July 2006 and was aged for 13 years before being bottled. It's from the Speyside region and is from a refill ex-bourbon hogshead. It is a single malt Scotch whisky. It is 57.8% ABV. And it's for a good cause. So yeah, hopefully this whisky is delicious, but it will taste even more delicious knowing that portions of, actually all of the proceeds from the Scotch Malt Whisky Society are going to support Big Brothers and Big Sisters Canada, which, yeah, I don't have any personal involvement with that charity. However, I do have a personal involvement with Big Brothers and Big Sisters Australia, where I did work with them for a little while. And I'm assuming the Canadian chapter is just as integral to the lives of a lot of young people who need that kind of support. And yeah, I think that is a perfect charity to be donating the first Giving Spirit bottle proceeds to. Hear, hear. And a fabulous pop. Ooh. Smells like Cadbury's fruit and nut bars. That is a... I hear a lot of people talking about refill ex-bourbon hogsheads, or ex-bourbon barrels, just refill ex-bourbons, and being, you know, like, oh, it's the worst kind of cask. It's been used too often, and it's just gone. As I've said before on these videos, that's rubbish. There's a time and a place for refill ex-bourbon hogsheads. It's not necessarily that they're old and tired. I mean, let's face it, a second fill cask could have had a whiskey in it for 50 years beforehand, and a refill could have had 3 whiskies in it that were all 5 years old, making it only 15 years old wood. Like, the fact that it's a refill or a first fill or a second fill doesn't necessarily have any indication on the condition of the cask or how much the cask has got left to give. What it does say, though, is how much other spirits have been imbued into that wood. This has had at least 2 different Scotch whiskies in it, as well as having an American whiskey in it, a bourbon whiskey in it, which means that it's got much more complex compounds and flavors and fatty esters, hiding in that wood, waiting to be leached into a new liquid. Yeah, it can create a very interesting complex flavor. Yes, not always. Sometimes refill casks do produce subpar whiskies if they're the different, you know, if they're a poor refill cask, but the term refill doesn't denote a poor cask, is basically what I'm trying to say here. You can have incredibly good refill casks, and judging on the colour of this, it's actually got a fairly decent amount of colour for a 13-year-old refill cask, I have to say. It's got a nice, beautiful straw golden hue. Yeah. And it smells really, really good. Like I said, Cadbury's fruit and nut. Cinnamon buns. Freshly baked cinnamon buns with the icing, the cream cheese icing. Oh. Delightful. Oh, that is... Ooh. 57.8. It doesn't burn, but it is such a full flavour. Coffee beans, my god. This is one of those whiskies which, if I was just giving the stats on, if I was just told it was a 13-year-old Speyside or a refill hogshead, I'd be like, okay, cool. It's, you know, it's probably going to be fine. This is really bloody good. Like, really, really bloody good. Stout beer, yeah. It's got this big sort of grain-driven depth to it, but then these sweet, fruity notes on top as well. It's like a perfectly constructed jam sandwich. Exactly the right amount of butter. Freshly baked I want to even say like marble rye bread. And just this beautiful fresh strawberry jam. It's just, Yeah. I'm gonna say right now, I'm gonna let you guys have first dibs on this. I'm gonna give it a good 48 hours. But if there's a bottle of this left on the shelf, I am buying one. Not only because I believe in supporting the charity and want to help Rob and Kelly in their philanthropic aims there, but also this is just really, really quite impressive. Like, yeah. This is a don't judge a book by its cover moment for me. I mean, the name is very evocative and certainly makes me want to try it. Baked bananas and burnt bacon. It's the kind of name I'd expect a Bunnahabhain to have, to be honest. And actually, it's not too dissimilar to a Bunnahabhain flavor profile. It's... Ooh. But yeah. I'm mostly impressed because of the distillery. It's a distillery which... I've very much enjoyed several bottles of, but I wouldn't say I've been consistently blown away with. But yeah, okay, I'm going to tell you what it is. So this is Distillery 85, and Distillery 85 is Glen Elgin. Despite Elgin, the village of Elgin, being home to many distilleries such as Linkwood and Glenmoray, Glen Elgin is actually not in Elgin. It's in a little hamlet called Fogwat. And I have to admit, I really wish they chose the name Fogwat, because I think that would make a great name for a whiskey. I'm going to have a glass of Fogwat tonight, Jeeves. Beautiful. So, we have 11 bottles of this available right now, strathliquor.com/SMWS. It is available at $170.35, and remember, a large amount of that, all of the SMWS's profits from that will be directly donated to Big Brothers and Big Sisters Canada. So, cheers to that, and yeah, cheers to giving back in 2021. It's I've heard a lot of people saying, you know, thank God 2020's over. Yeah. The year is over, but it's literally just a digit on a calendar changing. Nothing really. There's no miraculous crack at midnight. This is still the same situation we were in 2 weeks ago. Please do remember that we need to remain sort of safe, and we also need to remain sort of a community. We need to make sure that we're looking after each other. And yeah, this is a fantastic way to look after some people who need it more than ever right now. But there's always more whiskey, and I'm about to try my second new whiskey of 2021. And this one is instructing me to suspend my disbelief, and suspend it I shall. Unlike the last whiskey, where it's a distillery which, you know, I don't have a particularly, I don't have a relationship with Glen Elgin particularly. It's one of those distilleries which I've enjoyed some, I thought some are fine. This next distillery is one of my favourites, and I'm not quite sure what to say when they suspend your disbelief. Are they trying to say it doesn't taste anything like this distillery normally does? I don't know. I look forward to finding out. But let's read the official tasting notes first. The first statement was, "This has something for everyone." How true. Cola cubes, salty caramel, red licorice laces, and assorted fruit-flavoured candy pebbles next to a clean floral perfumed handkerchief. The taste, dangerously delicious. Sweet and salty popcorn as well as tropical fruit salad with a chili, star anise, cinnamon and lime dressing. Holy moly, that sounds good. Water released a sweet smoke, like that from a thurible. What's a thurible? Write into us here at the Strath. I want your answers on a postcard, please. What is a thurible? Thurible. I have no clue. Being used in a religious procession along the waterfront. Ah, I do have a clue. They gave me a clue. It's most likely that thing the smells and bells thing in the Catholic churches where we've got that incense swinging. I bet that's a thurible. Huh. When we took a sip, we started singing Campbellton Lock, I Wish You Were Whiskey, a song that I do know, but I'm not going to sing for you. The beauty of a single cask, as the wee tune had truly delivered a surprise. Suspend your disbelief. Cool. So you've probably guessed by now what distillery this is. It is a 93, it's 93.138. Yeah. But before we get into that, let's go over the stats. This is 93.138. It is from a first fill barrel. It is 11 years aged. It is from the 5th of September 2008. One of 237 bottles, bottled at 54.9%, and it is, of course, from Campbellton. Alrighty. Very good. Interesting. Yeah, what they're calling red licorice, which I think doesn't exist. I'm a firm believer that red licorice is not licorice. But yeah, it does kind of smell like that. Red shoelaces, I would call them back in Yorkshire. Yeah, very nice. It does have a very penny mix candy kind of a thing going on. Especially, yeah, very like the little cola bottles, and there's called, say, cola cubes in here, but yeah. Caramelly. It's a very inviting nose. It smells like one of those whiskies which I sell an awful lot of in the run-up to Christmas. I've often gone on record. I mean, if you go back to my 12 grams New Year thing, like around the Christmas Day mark, I often say that, you know, for me, the quintessential Christmas flavor is sherry cask. But when selling whiskey to someone that is going to be a gift, it's always best to go for a whiskey which is very middling and well balanced. Not heavily sherried, not heavily sweet, not heavily bourbon cask, not heavily smoky. Just somewhere nice and in the middle, which is one of those whiskeys where, you know, it's less likely to be someone's favorite, but it's incredibly, incredibly unlikely that someone will not like it. And that's the kind of profile I'm getting on the nose, at least, of this one. I'm not blown away straight away on the nose by this. I'm going to hold judgment until the palate. I'm sure I'm probably going to quite like it. But this is a very approachable nose. This is the kind of nose which anyone who is just getting into whiskey is going to really enjoy. And the kind of nose that time and time again I've found that people who have spent a long time with the hobby of whiskey come back to. We all get drawn in by the heavy sherry and the heavy peat, and there's nothing wrong with that, don't get me wrong. But after 20, 30 years of exploring whiskey, a lot of people are drawn into the simple beauty of a nice, complex whiskey that was more towards the beginner style. Think something like, a lot of people start off with Glenfiddich 12, but then go back and have a 25-year-old Glenfiddich or a 30-year-old Glenfiddich. It's that same beautiful, well-structured, simplistic kind of a style of whiskey. Not simple to make, but like, as I said, it's not aggressive. It's not hard to understand, but refined and sort of, yeah. Anyway, I've been rambling, but that's the kind of thing I'm getting here. Oh, huh. They don't mention that in their tasting notes. That is a kind of tasting note which I would normally equate to this distillery. It's not one that I've found before, but it's one I could certainly see myself finding. It tastes ever so slightly, and I mean this in the best way possible. I actually very, very much enjoyed this. Ever so slightly chlorine-y. Like, not in any bad way. I can't stress that enough. But it reminds me of being a little bit near a swimming pool. But it's really interesting. It's really interesting. You know, it's chlorine in the same way that, you know, Lafroig is iodine. You never want to just drink iodine. You'd never, like, being around iodine is not particularly great, but, you know, it reminds you of that in Lafroig, and this reminds me of chlorine. It doesn't actually taste like chlorine, but there's something about it that makes me, and I love going to the swimming baths. I miss swimming baths. I haven't gone swimming in over a year because of COVID. Yeah, not so much with the second sip. That might just have been a weird shock to the system. But yeah, getting much more of that salty popcorn, chili paste kind of a thing. Actually, it tastes like, I can't remember what it's called. I should ask the guy down in the store. But the Korean chili paste, gochujang or something. If you're familiar with Korean cuisine, you probably know what I'm talking about. But yeah, the Korean chili paste. It's a little like that, but no, not spicy. It's not burning. It's got that sort of same underlying flavor though. That's really pleasant. Lime, yeah. Tropical fruits. Oh! And there's that little tiny whiff of smoke. You know what? I'm going to add a little bit of water, see if this opens up a bit. But that eye-opening moment for a second there, this tastes like an Ardbeg without the peat. If Ardbeg ever made an unpeated whiskey with their still shape and everything, I bet it would come over a bit like this. It's got that same tropical fruit flavour. That same slightly artificial, chemically flavour that Ardbeg has as well. Unpeated Ardbeg. There's a thing I'd like to try. This might be as close as I get for a while. So would I believe that this is a Glen Scotia? I'm not sure. Maybe I should. Maybe I do need to suspend my disbelief a little bit because it doesn't taste like any Glen Scotia I've ever had. That being said, I feel like I say that a lot about Glen Scotia. They are the most off-the-wall, random flavour profiles. Every single cask of Glen Scotia tastes like nothing I've ever had from Glen Scotia. So this is just one in a long line of very unique Glen Scotias. Yeah, talking about the Campbellton Lock, an interesting piece of trivia specifically about Glen Scotia is that the former owner actually drowned in the Campbellton Lock, and their ghost is said to haunt the distillery to this day, if you're into that kind of thing. Huh. Consider my disbelief suspended. And it is time now for the back row. For those of you who are not getting that reference at our in-person tastings, which I should state we will be restarting at some point when it is safe to do so, when we've been given the green light, the go-ahead from the government here, when the public health order has been changed and amended to allow us to have in-person tastings again, we will be doing it, and once our staff believe it's safe to do so. But yeah, in those tastings, the glasses are arranged in 2 rows of 4, in the front row and the back row. And people often get very excited about the back row because that's generally when the bigger, bolder flavours come to play. That's not to say that's always the case, but it is often the case. And this is our delve into the back row here in January. We're going for a buttershot quartet. Not a barbershop quartet, a buttershot quartet. Alrighty. The initial impressions for this one were very much meat-themed. So, vegetarians beware. You're either going to love this because you're the kind of vegetarian that longs for the taste of meat but can't have it because you're a self-restricting vegetarian, or you're going to hate it because you're the kind of vegetarian that is a vegetarian because you don't actually like the taste of meat. So yeah, vegetarians, be aware of this one. It's apparently very meaty. It is beefy, gamey, rich, and full of savoury, herbal, and stocky notes. Broth, bouillon, bay leaf, bouquet garni, and hints of charred fruit and blue cheese. All right. This sounds full flavour. This sounds like a back row whiskey. I'm intrigued to see where else is coming from. Dried apricot rings, barley sugar, grape must, and vegetable oil. With reduction, this meaty aspect remains, but developed more towards dried herbal mixtures, wood char, damp earthiness, pencil erasers, and peppery beef stock. Touches of caramelized brown sugar and malt vinegar. unusual, and compelling. The palate opened with spicy dried chili, barley sugars, metal polish, cured bacon, very umami and rich, like whiskey-cured venison, with notes of lemon acidity, some white pepper, and cough lozenges. With water, it was still rather hot and peppery, but also showing notes of vanilla custard, spiced dark fruits, walnut oil, apple pie, and mixed berries. Well, isn't that just a little bit of everything? This is Buttershot Quartet. It is aged for 9 years. It's on a recharred hogshead. It is a Highland whiskey, aged for 9 years, as I said, from the date 11th of June 2010. OutTurn of 273 bottles, and it is an ABV of 57.9. 68.38 is the cask number. Cool. Cool. Very cool. Alrighty. Recharred hogshead. Invigorated a bit. Oh my, that smells like. What's it called? It looks like Marmite, but it's red and it's meaty. Bovril. It smells like Bovril. Oh. Ooh. This smells like my granddad's at home, and we only ever had Bovril when Granddad was around. You'd have Bovril and like you'd make Bovril drinks, like with just hot water and Bovril, which sounds awful actually. You can spread it on toast like Marmite as well. Yeah, it's like meaty Marmite. Actually, speaking of Marmite, it's not too dissimilar to Marmite either. Actually reminds me of a trip I took when I was a kid to the Cheddar Gorge, the cave systems where cheddar cheese was created first off, and where they aged cheese in a series of caves where the temperature is nice and stable. They also aged cider there, but they actually had at the gift shop cheddar, which was marbled with Marmite, and it was absolutely incredible. And to this day, I've always been a fan of sharp cheddar and Marmite. It's a fantastic pairing. If you've never tried it, give it a try. Oh. Oh my. That does taste like beef. Huh. So my friend Tasia, who's one half of Red Fox Sparrow, the default Dram Association band, is a vegetarian, and she always likes she's always drawn to the bacony whiskies. You know, bacon's a relatively common thing in whiskey tastings. I need to show her this whiskey. I need to see if she likes beefy whiskies too. This is the beefiest whiskey I've ever had. By quite a lot. It is unique, it is interesting, and I think I like it. I think I like it a lot. I think it's one of those whiskies where if I didn't make a decision straight away whether I liked it or not, I'd overthink it too much and the bottle would be gone before I'd made a decision. But the fact that I'd get through an entire bottle probably tells me what the decision was. This is good. It's really good. Cool. Let's see what water does. So this is Distillery 68. And that's one of those numbers I often get mixed up with the SMWS. I'm getting pretty good at remembering the numbers of a lot of distilleries. But I have to admit, when I ordered this, I was excited because I thought we were getting another Strathisler, and I quite enjoy Strathisler. If you've not seen my 12 grams still 2021 final episode, we had a particularly special Strathisler in that one. But that's 58, not 68. However, that being said, 68 is also a really interesting distillery, one that is a favourite of blenders. It's one of the key components of Bell's. It's used an awful lot by some of the major blending houses, and actually, just like a previous whiskey, it is not actually in the place it's named after. So this is Blair Athol, and although there is a village of Blair Athol, this is not from the village of Blair Athol. Blair Athol is made up the road in Pitlochry. Because why not? Why don't we just name distilleries of places that are 7 miles down the road? That's the new naming convention for the distilleries. Yeah. I mean, then again, Victoria. Actually, it's not called Victoria Caledonia anymore. But back when it was called Victoria Caledonian, it was in Saanich, not Victoria. So yeah. Anyway, yeah, it was originally called Aldauer, which I think is a cool name for a distillery as well. It's a little Carpaccio-ish now. It's got that caper thing going on with it. It's actually quite like the Carpaccio that you can get at Ine, a restaurant down here in Victoria, where they do the thinly sliced raw beef with capers and everything. But they have it with like I think it's like a soy-based sauce on it as well. Very good. That's very, very good. So, as I look down at this book and look at the price, and I think that's a fantastic price for this whiskey, I'm not sure right now whether I actually released the last whiskey. I don't think I actually said what the price was. So, just in case I didn't, and I should remember to make sure I have more coffee before I record these, so I'm a little sharper. But in case I forgot to actually tell you the price of Suspend Your Disbelief, I'm going to do that. Suspend Your Disbelief is available right now at strathliquor.com for $182.52, which means if you're not a member, and there's still some available after our members have had their chance to pick it up, you yourself can become a member by buying one. It's over the $180 threshold. Is the Blair Athol above that $180 threshold? Good Lord, no it isn't. It is well below. This can be yours right now to members only. You cannot buy this unless you are a member. Buttershot Quartet is $143, $143.39. Gorgeous, really unique whiskey for that. This is a very memorable one. This is one that it's good to have in your collection just to show how different a whiskey can be. And, you know, still be really, really good. And it's still whiskey. You're not going to taste this and think it's something else. It still has that whiskey backbone. But that backbone has been made into a stew. Very cool. So, from one big meaty whiskey to another whiskey which I'm expecting to be big and meaty as well based on the distillery it's from. Let's move now on to whiskey number 6 of the January 2021 OutTurn. With potentially one of the weirder names that we've had in a while, especially considering it was matured in a butt. This is called Happiness is a Warm Bung. Happiness is a Warm Bung. A big and sumptuous nose of treacle pudding, dried figs, fresh pear cake, ginger biscuits, old wine cellars, leaf mulch, chocolate sauce, strawberry-scented tobacco, and aged Madeira drizzled over fresh lychees. Water gives us cafe latte, roast chestnuts, milk chocolate, carnations, toasted almond flakes, chocolate spread, pencil shavings, sheep's wool, soft earthiness, unlit cigars lost in a new handbag, and game meats. The palate is alive with spiced honey cake, aged sweet wines, rosewater, jasmine tea, cherry marmalade, wood spice, black pepper, wax, and methylated oils. A little water brings out coffee, tequila liqueur, rose hips, mint leaf, wood extracts, cocoa powder, pink peppercorns, dried thyme, bovril. I just mentioned bovril, see? This one's going to be big and meaty as well, I told you. And old workshops. It was matured for 6 years in an Oloroso butt before being transferred into a second fill Spanish oak PX butt. And Robin Kelly did actually follow up. They thought it was weird that it just said Oloroso butt and didn't mention first fill, second fill, refill, or any other information. And although they didn't find out the fill status, I guess, of the first cask, they did find out it was an ex-American oak Oloroso cask. So not only has this had 2 different types of sherry inhabit the cask before the whiskey did. It's actually 2 different types of wood as well. And if you're interested in exploring more the effects of different types of wood, rather than different types of things that were in the wood previously, stay tuned. We're going to have a tasting quite soon, hopefully with a special guest. We're still working out the details on that. We're going to have a really interesting tasting of Glenallachie whiskies, where we're going to be exploring a trilogy of Glenallarchies that have been finished in virgin oak casks of 3 different types of wood: Spanish oak, French oak, and Chilquapin oak, which is a type of American oak. So yeah, stay tuned. We're going to be doing that either in January or February. That'll be coming up soon. But yeah, the type of wood matters, and it matters potentially even more than what was in the wood before, because, you know, the previous inhabitants of a cask is going to soak into the outer layer of the wood a little bit. Of course, wood is partially, you know, porous for liquid, but the actual wood itself is also there. Like the flavors that you get from oak are a big part of whiskey. I mean, look at any whiskey. Like bourbon, for example, or any American whiskey, which is matured exclusively in virgin oak that has never had anything in it before. Bourbon's very, very flavorful, and a lot of that is coming from that wood, from leaching out the flavors of the wood itself. So the fact that there's 2 different types of wood and 2 different types of sherry influence on this whiskey, and it's a big, meaty new make spirit from this distillery as well, not potentially as meaty as the last one, which just tasted kind of like a gravy. But this is going to be a very big, rich, full-flavored whiskey. I can tell you that without even trying it. And I'm about to confirm it by trying it. Oh. I just saw a little splinter of cork balance on the lip and then fall into the thing. So there might be a piece of cork in this one. Look at that colour. See if I can hold up something white behind it so you can really see the colour. That's pretty good. A different kind of meaty. Very nice. So, happiness is indeed a warm bung. I'm very happy to be nosing this one. So, initial cask was an Oloroso butt, as we said, an American oak Oloroso butt. The final cask, a second fill PX butt. It was aged for 8 years in total, 6 in one, 2 in the other. And it was distilled on the 20th of April, 2011. There were 590 bottles of this. For those unaware, a butt is big. In the whiskey world, we indeed do like big butts. They give us 590 bottles approximately. You can generally get around 600, give or take, a couple dozen bottles out of a butt-sized cask. And the ABV on this one is... it's not a shy whiskey, this one. This is 68.5, which, as I read it in the book, I'm worried that's a misprint, and I'm going to have to look... Yep, the bottle confirms 68.5% ABV, which is a lot. Sheep's wool. Smells like a brand new tweed jacket. Oh, holy crap! Wow. That's sherry. That is a punch to the back of the throat of sherry right there. I wasn't expecting... I mean, I know I just said it was, 68.5%, and I'm not recoiling from ABV, I'm not recoiling from, like, the taste of alcohol, but that is so much flavour! This is Mary Poppins' handbag of flavour. This little tiny drop is enough to... Yeah. Ooh. It is actually a touch hot. I have a feeling I'm going to enjoy this more with water. But yeah, that is a whole lot of burnt toast and marmalade right there. This is one of those whiskies You know how I mentioned earlier about how I sell a lot of quote-unquote beginner whiskies around Christmas time for people buying them as gifts to make sure that they're actually going to like it. There's nothing worse than, you know, being someone who hates peated whiskey and being given a whole bottle of Lefroy. This is one of those whiskies where some people are really not going to like this, and other people are going to think this is the best thing ever created. I think this is going to be quite a divisive one, simply because the flavors are so big and rich and strong and in your face. And if you don't like those flavors, you're not going to like this whiskey. You can't look for other flavors behind them. This is a big, proud whiskey. Chestnut paste. Yeah. Oh, I'm going to add a little bit of water to this, but I'm going to talk to you just for a second about the S word. So there's one word in whiskey which is, again, very divisive. And I'm not saying I find it particularly in this whiskey, some people might, but it is technically there, and that word is sulfur, right? So sulfur got a really bad name in whiskey because sometimes with sherry casks, the bodegas will actually burn sulfur candles in the cask to kill off any bacteria to stop infections in the sherry. And that would kind of ruin the cask, and then they'd sell that cask onto whiskey, and the whiskey would not be great. Sulfur, when not wanted and not expected, is not good. It's not. But sulfur is not a new thing to whiskey. Sulfur has been something that has been part of the whiskey making process for generations, and a very important part to how many whiskies are created. A lot of the big names in whiskey specifically try and put a little bit of sulfur into their new make spirit. And there's a big difference between having a bit of sulfur in your new make spirit and having sulfur added to a mature whiskey through leaching in from the wood. This is sulfur for good, not sulfur for bad. And this distillery actively tries to do that. This is a distillery called Craigellachie, or if you live in the town of Craigellachie in BC, you're wrong, it's still Craigellachie. But yeah, they actually specifically try and get a little bit of sulfur chemical compound into their whiskey by reducing the amount of copper contact that the spirit vapor has with the whiskey. So yeah, sulfur, not always a bad thing. Sulfur can be used to create a big, rich whiskey, a big, meaty whiskey. Things like Craigellachie, things like Mortlach, yeah. Yep. You know, I now can't even remember if I put water in. I'm fairly sure I did, but it certainly needs more. The water, it does nothing. All right. What's that from? Oh, The Simpsons, when the Arnold Schwarzenegger character, McBain, is with the acid, and he puts his goggles on, and he's like, the goggles, they do nothing. Yeah, the water didn't do anything. I needed to double or triple that. Ooh. Interesting. You can taste the wood influence now, not just the... You get past the sherry and you get into the wood. There's much more of a nutty vanilla thing coming across now, and almost a wood kind of a flavor itself, almost like a... This is an asterisk moment, pencil shavings, but in a good way. Very, very, very light pencil shavings. Yeah, and there's a lot more of that herbal, more delicate flavors coming across now with water. Don't get me wrong, I thought this was cool. I really liked this before adding water. Actually, I'll be honest, I didn't really like it before adding water. I liked it. The prefix of really didn't quite apply. Now I've added water, I do really, really quite like it. I would say this is almost a brand new whiskey after adding water. This is a thing of beauty, which is good because it means that you actually get more for your money. You know, you stretch the bottle by adding water to it. This is beautiful. Yeah, no, very, very, very glad I added water. Definitely recommend anyone trying this at home add some water to your whiskey. Don't be afraid. It will probably take quite a lot. I can probably, you know, knowing how little effect the first bit of water I did, I'm going to put all of that in there, and it'll still probably be a fantastic. Yeah, just beautiful. This can take quite a bit of water, partially because it's 68.5% alcohol, but also because it's such a big, meaty whiskey. It can be stretched a little. Very good. Very good indeed. Okay, so moving on now to the final two whiskies. We're about to hit some peat. And the next whiskey... Oh, wait, no, I haven't released it yet. It's been like 3 weeks since I recorded one of these videos. Apparently I've forgotten how it works. If you would like to buy Happiness is a Warm Bung, you can do so right now at strathliquor.com/SMWS. If it is available, it'll be right there in the new releases. And you can purchase it for $146.87, a majestic price for this much sherry cask whiskey, especially as realistically, it may only be 750 mils, but you'll get at least a litre and a quarter of actual drink out of it after you've added water, because, yeah, like I said, it takes a lot. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful whiskey. And on the off chance that you are watching this video months after the OutTurn event has actually happened, which, you know, I'm not going to take it down off YouTube. Once it's up there, it's up there. That could happen. If you are watching this later on and you want to see if this whiskey is still available, it obviously won't be in the new releases section of the strathliquor.com/SMWS page, but you can still search for it in our search bar at the top and see if it comes up. Or scroll further down in the page to see all of our releases and see if it pops up there. All right, so for those of you who might have the New Year blues, I know January can be a not great time for a lot of people. We've got the most uplifting name I've ever seen in a whiskey. This is just, you know, there's just such an affirming whiskey name for this time of year. I invite you, one and all, to join me for a burial at sea. Beautiful. All right. So, some kind of Viking burial, I'm guessing. 50-50 lime juice and brine at first nosing. That sounds like a Scottish hangover cure. Here, take this shot of lime juice and salt water. Fresh from the Firth of Forth. Anyway, then bright shining peat smoke and clean, crisp, freshly kilned malt. Sooty cereals, cured meats, burlap, bonfire and newspaper ash. Add to this some squid ink, barbecue charred calamari with lemon juice, and mercurochrome drenched wellies, or Wellington boots, or rubber boots, or you know, those kind of rain boots that you wear. Reduction reveals pure farmyard smokiness. Bonfires on the seashore, old rope, tar liqueur. Hang on, tar liqueur? Who the hell has tried a tar liqueur? Who's made a tar liqueur? Anyway, stir-fried oysters with soy sauce, liquid seasoning, vinegar-soaked chip wrapping paper. Oh. Fish and chips used to come in newspaper. Yeah, I completely get the vinegar-soaked paper thing. That speaks to me on a Yorkshire level. The palate neat is like a hot injection of lighter fluid and antiseptic. Salt-baked cod, iodine drops, lemon-flavoured cough syrup, pine air freshener, mouthwash, and fiery salami. With water, it all melts into hot plastic. Lemon-infused green tea, kippers in kedgeree, petrol-doused oatmeal. Petrol-doused oatmeal! All right. Green olives bobbing in seawater. Yeah, you don't go bobbing for apples in the Med, you go bobbing for olives. And dried seaweed in ramen broth. Wow. Wow. So it sounds like we're going from completely unpeated to this is peat. Like, I'm imagining like the distiller as that guy from the movie 300 kicking the poor bloke into the giant hole, just shouting, "This is Pete!" Or, "This is Isla!" That'd be a great name for a whiskey, actually. But yeah, this is an Isla whiskey. This is a 10-year-old Islay whiskey from a refill hogshead. It is from the 20th of February 2009, one of 279 bottles from that refill hogshead. It is 58 ABV. So despite only being 2 years older than Happiness is a Worm Bung, it's actually over 10% lower in ABV. Wow. So, burial at sea. Let's see what happens. See. I've often thought, like, the whole burial at sea thing, like, I had to write down, I can't remember what it was for a while ago, it was something to do with wills, whether I wanted to be, like, buried or cremated, and I was like, no, I don't want to be thrown overboard, like, I love worms, don't get me wrong, but I prefer fish. I'd like to feed the fish. That'd be great. I love the idea of my skull washing up on a tropical beach one day and just freaking out the locals. Yeah, that is limey. Ooh, that is lime and brine. Lime and brine. Yeah, no, you're right. The tasting notes on this are absolutely spot on from the get-go. Lime juice and brine at first nosing, and then bright shining peat smoke. Exactly that. That is the first sniff, lime and brine. The second sniff, got the lime and brine, moved past it, find the peat smoke. I'm expecting now, if this continues, on the third sniff, I'm then going to find that freshly killed malt. Let's see what happens. You have to sniff a little longer. You've got to get past that lime juice and brine, and you've got to get past that smoke. But yeah, it is kind of malty on the nose as well, and I love myself a big malty whiskey. Had to go straight into the palate there. The nose was so inviting, it drew me right in, and that is exactly what I want from a 53. This is 53.317, a stalwart distillery, a distillery we see quite often in the SMWS, and I think probably my favourite peated Islay. Yeah. That is salt baked cod. That is pepper. Big white pepper. Smoked pepper. Oh yeah, the malt vinegar. Soaked into newspaper. Oh my god. Oh, this is like Grimsby. Tastes like Grimsby docks on fire. I'm not sure I'm getting the pine air freshener, and not really this fiery salami as well, but yeah, I'm definitely getting the seafoody elements on this. And oh yeah, that is big, bold, beautiful smoke. I don't think I need to go on and on about this whiskey. You probably know by now whether it's the kind of whiskey you're going to like or not. I know this is the kind of whiskey I very much like. I generally enjoy things from this distillery, and this is no different. This is one of the most consistent distilleries probably on the planet. 53, ladies and gentlemen, is Kalila. A whiskey that, despite having its origins in 1846 when the distillery was first built, it was not ever released as a single malt official bottling until 2002. What happened? Why was everyone ignoring Kalila? Well, it's not that they were ignoring it. It's that there just wasn't any available because it is so incredibly sought after by blending houses. It's such a big, bold, beautiful flavour. And it's so consistent that blending houses all over the world want it for their product. And in fact, when I did the whiskey school, the pilot program, when they were testing out the whiskey school program over at McAloney's Caledonian up the road there, I was working with Mike Nicholson, who used to work at I think Lagavulin. I'm not sure if he worked at Kalila as well. I know he worked at a whole bunch of different Diageo distilleries. And we actually did a bit of a blending masterclass with. Actually, we didn't do the blending masterclass with Mike. We actually did it with Graham. And you could, that was when I first really noticed how if you're blending your own whiskey at home, which I encourage anyone to do, it's a really fun thing to do. If you've got a bunch of whiskeys, just try blending them together, see what happens. Be your own whiskey maker. But be careful. You really only need to add like 5% Kalila before everything tastes kind of Kalila inspired. Like it goes a little bit of Kalila goes a really long way in a blend. It's such a little tiny bomb of flavor. You mix it with the other whiskeys, and it just it changes the blend completely. Just a few drops of it. It's amazing. If you like Kalila, you will like this Kalila. If your stocks are getting low of one of our all-time favorites here in Victoria, pick yourself up another Kalila. This is available to members only. Yes, that's right, to members only. This is below the 180 mark. This is $176.43. $176.43. Available right now at stratliquor.com/SMWS. And that's actually the last time I'm going to say that tonight. Because the next whiskey is not available right now at stratliquor.com/SMWS. And we'll get into that in a second. But let's talk about what we can expect from whiskey number 8. If a 10-year-old Kalila is whiskey number 7, you know there's something quite peaty and quite special coming up. And I can confirm that. So this is a peated. You can see with the green cap here and the green stripe here. This is a peated. It's not a lightly peated, but a straight up peated. We see those, maybe once every month. Sometimes we don't see a peated. We only see a lightly peated. The next one, I've only seen a couple of these in my time here in the SWS. This is a heavily peated whiskey. Let's see what we've got. There's mountains of silage, freshly poured bitumen, boilers belching smoke, molten tar erupts from a gnarled peat bog, and winged demons season the land with black pepper and slices of spicy salami, while nosing down smouldering Jeroboams of... Jeroboam? Is that one of the big bottle sizes? I'm not sure. Of pickled onion space raiders. It sounds biblical, and you know how all those... all the big wine bottle sizes are all named after biblical figures. I think that might be what that is. That's my guess. Again, I don't know. I don't know everything. Please write your answers on a postcard addressed to the Strathliquor store. Or just tell us in the comments if you know what a Jeroboam is. With water comes a tidal surge of briny disinfectant. Peat bricks are bobbing about inside of your car while the engine bursts into flames and molten putty oozes from the dashboard. What? The sky opens and down comes an apocalyptic rain of petrol and kippers. The Devil's Sherry Bodega is open for business. Oh, it's sherried. As you drown, your mouth floods with kipper eau de vie, burnt pencils, oozing mechanical oils, and a stray bicycle inner tube, and globules of iodine-laced paraffin wax. Some water dilutes things to reveal an ocean of soot, molten tractor fumes, olive tapenade cut with malt vinegar, and flaming farmyard peat embers. The finish is long and tinged with the end of the world. So we have an apocalyptic whiskey here, and the reason I haven't told you the name yet is because for some of you with some whiskey knowledge, this is going to give away exactly where it's from. This is called Make Moyna a Devil. So, make mine a double, make Moyna a devil. Moyna is the peated number 10. We had a very special number 10 a little while back here at the SMWS Canada, and this is another very special number 10. Very special indeed. It's got a picture. So, before we go any further, I will explain. Yes, this is not available right now at stratliquor.com/SMWS. I'm very sorry. But that's not because we don't have any to sell. It's because it's actually going to go to a draw. To keep it nice and fair for all of our members, we have 11 bottles of this, and we're going to make sure that that there's no monkey business, there's no funny business, and we're going to make sure that it's as fair as possible for all of our BC members. So this time, we're actually going to get you to email your entrances to SMWS directly. So if you go to our page, you will see a link to be able to send an email directly to Rob and Kelly to enter yourselves into the draw. You need to enter by noon in local time here, noon on Tuesday, the January the 12th, in order to be in the running for this bottle. So when we get there, sign up, send off an email to Rob and Kelly. Part of the reason they're doing that now is just to make sure, because there's 2 stores here in BC. Oh, hi guys at Legacy. I hope you're doing well. Also, while I'm on that, hi to the Alberta stores, Kensington Wine Market and Keg and Cork. It's great to it's great to have you here if you happen to be watching. But yeah, to make sure that between the Strath and Legacy we are fair to our members. That is what we're going to do. It's going to be a draw. So you will find out if you've won via email, and you will be able to buy it at strathliquor.com through a very secret link. And if any of you do come across that very secret link and try your luck, just don't. Because there's going to be a big thing on there that says if you're not authorized to purchase this bottle, we will refund it straight away. And we'll also keep, I don't know, let's say a $20 service fee just to make sure that you don't try your luck. I don't know if that's legal. I don't know if we can, but don't do it. Don't do it. Only available to the winners of the lottery. Okay, so why is this special? It's from Fagile. It's from the Isla Festival. And it's special because this is an Oloroso but heavily peated Bunnahabhain. And that is a thing worth celebrating. Let's see how it comes. Let's pour myself a glass and see what's up. So yeah, second fill Oloroso, but it's 6 years old. It's very young, but that's a good thing for peated whiskey in many occasions because it means you get that full-fledged peat. Peat dissipates over time, and part of the reason this is classified as heavily peated is because it was bottled at 6 years old. Also, with an Oloroso, but you're going to get a lot of bold flavors coming from there as well. So yeah, it was distilled on the 17th of October 2013, 61.1% ABV, about what you'd expect. Maybe a little light actually, but an outturn of 616 bottles. I just wish it was 666 bottles. That would really make this one perfect, wouldn't it? Can we just find another 50 bottles? Can we call the call the commission and I was gonna make a Trump joke then, but I better not. I'm recording this on the Wednesday, and as yet I'm not entirely sure what's going to happen after what's been going on this afternoon. Hopefully it will all have calmed down by the time this video is aired. But yeah, I should probably just leave Trump jokes off the table for a little while. But yes, if we could call the SMWS and ask them to find another 50 bottles, that'd be great. That. So here's an interesting thing. Bunnahabhain, classic Islay distillery, majoritively known for their unpeated whiskey, and more these days they're getting a lot of attention for their peated whiskey. That they've started making peated whiskey again relatively recently in their timeline, although they did make peated whiskey, over 100 years ago. They release it under weird and wonderful names like Toichicada and Struidair and all kinds of fun Gaelic names. Really Gaelic? Gaelic, not Gaelic. Excuse me. But yes, the vast majority of their peated whiskey is American oak, just straight up ex-bourbon matured, whereas the vast majority of their unpeated whiskey is Oloroso sherry cask matured. So here we have the best of both worlds. We have one of the things that makes their unpeated whiskey so good with one of the things that makes their peated whiskey so good. Peat. I'm really intrigued by this. I can't think that I've ever had a full-on Oloroso cask peated Bunnahabhain before. Correct me if I'm wrong. We might have had one on the SMWS a few years ago. My memory is not perfect, and especially anything more than 3 years ago, I generally can't remember. But to the best of my knowledge, this is a first, and whether it is or not doesn't change the fact that I'm really looking forward to it. So, slash of O. Candied salmon. The first, actually, first? Only? No. I can't remember if I've been to Seattle once or twice. I think I've been twice. I have. The first time I went to Seattle, I remember strongly visiting the little fish market there, down by the first ever Starbucks, and I had candied salmon for the first time in my life, and this is smelling an awful lot like the smoked candied salmon. So here's my dilemma. I'm going to be entering my name into the draw for this. So it's in my personal best interest to tell you this is a really bad whiskey, but I'm just not sure I can bring myself to do that. It's really good. It's really, really quite nice. I have to admit, as with the previous whiskey, there's going to be a lot of people that actually hate this whiskey. The flavors in this are really strong and they're really bold. If you don't like peats, just ignore this whiskey. It's not for you. If you don't like sherry, ignore this whiskey. It's not for you. If you like peat and sherry together, then pay attention. This might be right up your alley. And it's a combination of flavors which really, really isn't for everyone. There's going to be some people who love peat and love sherry who don't actually like peated sherried whiskies. But yeah, for those of you who do, this is a great example of one. They've balanced the two behemoths quite well on this one. I'd almost say, if we were doing this as a physical tasting, that number 7 might be actually a better finishing whiskey. I would maybe swap 7 and 8 here. Despite this, being maybe a little more peated. I don't know. I think the 7 might actually be peatier. This is very, very peated for a peated Bunnahabhain, though, I have to say. But yeah, I think the sherry cask influence makes it just a little less maybe aggressive than on the peat in the number 7. I don't know. Much of a muchness. It's maybe they're both around the same level of peat, but just in a different direction slightly. But yeah, it's very good. Yeah. It is oily. I think that's the big difference, apart from the sherry notes. The big difference between this and the last whiskey. This one's a little bit dirtier, a little less clean. That sort of belching smoke, the molten tar that it talks about, the actual blocks of peat. It's a little down and dirty. It's a little rough, not in a alcohol rough way, but in a Inner tube. Find your inner tube. Nice. Yeah, it's got that little rubberiness. Let's see if water changes anything about it. Fruitier. I'm getting cranberry sauce now on this one. It's drying. It's fruity but drying. Almost in a big bold Cab Franc kind of a way. Peppery, very peppery. Yeah, again, I think this is one that does wonders with an addition of a couple of drops of waters. A couple of drops of waters. English is my first language, believe it or not. Yeah, I think I like this I like this more with water. I do. I recommend it. So, as I mentioned, this one is a Bunnahabhain. This one is only available via a lottery. So yeah, head to strathliquor.com/SMWS and you'll see the link, the address to be able to enter into the draw for this one. It's it's well worth entering, because despite being a Fagile bottling, despite being, you know, heavy peat and sherry, this one is $182.52, which, yeah, I have to be honest. I like the SMWS is very fair in their pricing in terms of they will sell bottles based on what they have to pay for the casks and you know, maybe a little fudging here and there depending on market value and whatnot. If this was an Ardbeg, this would be frickin' $600 in a black label. This is a steal of a deal for this whiskey right here. And I think the only reason it's not a black label is not for style or quality, but simply because it's only $182. Yeah, this is a very, very good special whiskey. I hope you. I wish you the best of luck in the lottery. I hope you win. Obviously, not everyone can win, so saying I hope you can win to a camera where a bunch of people are watching is kind of meaningless. But hell, many things in life are meaningless. And as I ponder on that and have a slight existential crisis, I'm going to pour myself some more. Make mine a devil. Make mine a devil. It has been a wonderful start to 2021. That's good. And here are your whiskies. This is the full lineup for the 2021 January OutTurn. We started off with our token repeat that we brought back from the warehouse. Started off with that Glen Grant. It's $149.48. And then we moved on to an Armagnac, a great way to start the year. This was the A4.1. It is $181.65, the first of the new releases. And then, of course, we had baked bananas and burnt bacon. This is this month's Giving Spirit bottle, the new charity, the new charitable donation bottle that we'll be doing every quarter now with the SMWS in Canada. That is $170.35. Then we had Suspend Your Disbelief, the 93.138. This, of course, is a Glen Scotia and is, yeah, most Glen Scotias, doesn't taste like you necessarily expect because it's hard to pin down a Glen Scotia. This is a beautiful whiskey, $182.52. Then we moved on to Buttershot Quartet, which was the beefiest whiskey I've possibly ever had in my life, $68.38. And I'm only just now realizing that there's not been many Blair Athels, have there? There's only the 38th Blair Athel in the history of the SMWS. This Blair Athel can be yours for $143.39. And then we had Happiness is a Warm Bung, the big, beautiful sherry bomb, $44.117. Then we moved into the peated land with some Kalila, $53.317. And that was the Burial at Sea. You can get that for $176.43. And then finally, Make Moina a Devil, which I'm enjoying another sip of right now, 10.190. 182.52 by lottery only. So for all of these new releases, you can go to strathliquor.com/SMWS and you'll find there the link as well to enter the lottery for number 8 to Make Moina a Devil. And yeah, I want to thank you all for joining me here today. It has been a delight, and it is also a delight to introduce our musical guest for this evening. Stick around in the live chat for a few more minutes and enjoy the musical stylings of Phaedra Kemp. This is a track from her brand new album. Details of how you can get yourself a copy or how you can stream it yourself are in the show description or also in the live chat notes. So, thank you, Phaedra, and thank you, Whiskey Folk. I'll see you very shortly for another new release. Stay well, stay safe. Slash of
There's a place that I go when I feel like I'm unknown, invisible somehow, like I'm haunting this old town. If you find me there, beside an empty chair, please sit down if you like. We'll talk idly of life. Still can't put it into words, as the pieces of my heart get scrapped and sold for parts. Well, he might never know how he leaves me with hope, as I'm selling all my time and giving all I got, till all I have is money that I don't even want. And all my love is wasted on whiskey and beer, and I'm gonna spend it all here. My chord hand is broken, you cracked my heart wide open. I've heard it'll beat again, 'cause that's how the light gets in. But I'm not alone, I got miles up on this road. He says it won't get fixed if I carry on like this, selling all my time and giving all I got, till all I have is money that I don't even want. And all my love is wasted on whiskey and beer, and I'm gonna spend it all here. Some wise man said if it's not okay, it's not the end. The other wise men say it's what you do along the way. It's not that profound, maybe it's as easy as it sounds. I likely lose myself trying to be someone else, and selling all my time, giving all I got, till all I have is money that I don't even want. And all my love is wasted on whiskey and beer, and I'm gonna spend it all here. I'm gonna spend it all here. If you find me there, beside an empty chair, please sit down if you like. We'll talk idly